Joining us today for part two on our first look at the Canadian government's newly released federal vaping regulations is Marc Kealey from K&A Consulting, the Canadian Vaping Association's powerhouse public policy and government relations firm. The new legislation, known as Bill S5, is currently winding its way through the Senate, and when implemented, it would legalize vaping products in Canada, including those containing nicotine, as long as no health claims are made. Marc, thanks again for joining us. Picking up where we left off, let's dive into some of the issues. In regards to e-juice flavors, it appears Health Canada has found a compromise it can live with by restricting how flavors in certain product categories, flavor categories, can be communicated through promotion and packaging in the marketplace.
What Health Canada is very clear on is curbing the appeal to young people. And so anything that they can do to reduce the appeal, they're going to take advantage of in the regulation. Our point is that oftentimes what's appealing to a lot of people who don't want to smoke cigarettes anymore is that what makes them sick is the taste of tobacco. But they still want their nicotine hit. They still want their nicotine fix, and a safer alternative is to vape. So it behooves the industry then to agree with the government of Canada to say, let's curb the appeal to young people and use different nomenclature.
So it all comes down to choosing the right names and using appropriate illustrations then?
We have been saying to Health Canada right from the start, the elephant in the room is flavoring and nicotine. When you do things like birthday cake, or when you have flavors like birthday cake, and when you have flavors like butterscotch or caramel, those are the kinds of things that just drive Health Canada crazy. A rose by another name, right? This is what we're looking at now. So what we've been saying quite clearly to Health Canada is on labeling, on the names of flavors, we'll be compliant on this issue, Brent, about nomenclature.
So just to be clear, Marc, there could still be cotton candy and birthday cake e-juice flavors, but manufacturers won't be able to use those names.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same goes then for any e-juice flavor that falls in one of the restricted categories, as long as the flavor is not communicated via name or illustration, picture on the label.
That's right. That's correct.
So, okay, I think I got it. Sticking with our example, no birthday cake in the name or picture or drawing of a birthday cake on the label, yet birthday cake flavored e-juice is still allowed. Is this a win?
Of course it's a win, and we viewed it as a win right from the start. You had the industry actually infringing trademarks by using Werther's or by using Pokemon. Those are the kinds of things that were driving Health Canada crazy and frankly making us look like fools in the industry across the country or frankly worldwide. So, putting this kind of regulation in place with the expressed intent of curbing appeal to young people and making sure that the nomenclature is better and frankly is a smarter way to go and puts us in a position to not only be compliant, but to say, you're right. Because we have said right from the start that we agree fundamentally with not only the government of Canada, but with every government across this country that we must limit the appeal to young people for vaping.
Marc, let's turn to another important area. As you know, we have a highly successful homegrown e-juice manufacturing sector in Canada and strong relationships with device manufacturers in China. Certainly both would be impacted by the new regulations. Looking at the language as it stands now, and here's a sample, vaping product manufacturers would have to provide the government information on ingredients, product composition, hazardous properties, and emissions. This all sounds perfectly reasonable to ensure vaping is safe. However, for existing vaping products and those in the pipeline, the legislation would also require manufacturers to provide information covering research and development, marketing data, and health effects. Marc, do you not find this language concerning at all, as it sounds suspiciously like some of the requirements the FDA set in the United States in regards to studies on health effects and providing support data for pre-market authorization?
On the issue of manufacturing and what you're saying, one of the big concerns I do have is that it could, in the regulations, it could lead one to believe that it would be a U.S. model. If you're looking at the U.S. model right now, you have to apply to the FDA every time you want to introduce something new to the marketplace. A deeper dive on the on the legislation and the regulations of S5 don't necessarily weigh that out. What Health Canada wants to know is what's in your liquid. So it behooves you as an industry, therefore, to have these kinds of GMP, good manufacturing practices in place at your facility, including clean rooms and good processes and protocols and procedures to make sure that Health Canada, if they ever asked or showed up at your place to inspect it, could see what's in your e-liquid. And that only makes good business sense.
Marc, agreed. Good manufacturing practices makes good business sense. But your answer doesn't address the concern that as it stands now, there appears to be a path to an FDA-type model embedded in the language of the legislation.
If we're going down the path of looking at this about what might happen as a consequence of that, sure. We have to put ourselves in the position to be extra vigilant. We made this point very clear to the government. If you put if you make it too onerous, that for all intents and purposes, the cost of doing or compliance is going to put this industry out of business. The only people, in our opinion, that could do this would be large tobacco. And I don't think that the government wants that.
Marc, you said you must be extra vigilant. Is the industry getting enough access to government in order to do that?
Our task and our role as CVA is to be the strongest advocates we can to make sure that the minister doesn't put herself in a position where she could be viewed as being oppressive to the industry. We're not being told we can't meet at Health Canada. They've been meeting with us with great regularity. We're not being told we can't meet with the minister's office. We're meeting with great regularity, and we're meeting with governments across the country with great regularity. So I think that effectiveness in of itself has put us in a position where we have, at the end of the day, look to being a heck of a lot smarter at a time when it's really complex to deal with a linebacker who's 6 times your size, meaning Health Canada and the Canadian Cancer Society.
Ooh, the Canadian Cancer Society. I'm so glad you brought that up, Marc. When I read through the legislation, it's hard to not see their fingerprints all over it. Throughout the language enshrines vaping as a health hazard, and there's no mention of harm reduction anywhere. There's even a clause that prohibits the comparison of the health effects arising from the use of a vaping product with those arising from the use of a tobacco product. This seems to be a direct effort to prohibit the promotion of reputable research like the Royal College of Physicians report and Public Health England's finding that vaping is 95% safer than smoking. My final question to you, Marc, do you believe that at some level biased views against the harm reduction argument may have swayed some decision making at Health Canada?
There are biased views on this that could have clouded the decisions where you wanted unbiased decisions or unbiased views. They aren't there. They believe that at some point, based on the biased views that they have, and I'll be very clear on that inhaling liquid nicotine and polyglycol and vegetable oil can actually hurt you to a degree that is similar to tobacco. We dispute that. And the science is catching up with that. And there are myriad examples, like you suggested, whether it's the College of Physicians or it's studies that have been done in other countries in Europe and the United States. So we dispute that. But at the end of the day, one of the issues that we have to address is the fact that Health Canada, by its very nature, will not make claims that this is safer, or will not make claims that this has benefits to your health. So we're okay with that. But where we're not okay is that we know, based on what you said earlier on, that when biased views or a lobby effort has perpetrated the agenda to make that happen, then I think we owe an obligation to people who are saying that this has helped them health-wise, that this has helped them get off combustible cigarettes and makes them feel a heck of a lot better. There must be something good about that.
Well, that's it for this edition of RegWatch. Before you head off, please like us on Facebook and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. For RegulatorWatch.com, I'm Brent Stafford.